The room had begun changing, not dramatically, not violently, but enough that people who entered it no longer trusted what they saw. And once people begin doubting a room, they soon begin doubting themselves. The room above the inn had begun resisting explanation. At first, the disturbances appeared trivial: a chair found in a different place, a book left open, a door discovered standing ajar. Such things occur in every house. Memory fails, objects are forgotten, and winter itself often makes old buildings seem alive. Yet the room upstairs had begun accumulating these small impossibilities, and with each passing day, Mrs. Hall became increasingly uneasy. The stranger remained secluded. Meals disappeared behind locked doors. The curtains remained closed. Questions received only irritation. The room had become his world, and no one else seemed entirely welcome within it. One morning, Mrs. Hall carried breakfast upstairs. The corridor stood silent. She believed she had heard movement only moments earlier, yet her knock produced no answer. Again, she called. Again, the silence continued. At last, she entered. The fire still burned. The bed remained disturbed. Books lay scattered across the table. Clothing hung upon the chair. Everything suggested occupation, and yet the room itself appeared strangely empty. She stood listening. For a moment, she believed she heard movement. Perhaps a chair. Perhaps a step. The sound seemed close. Yet no one stood before her. The sensation remained with her long after she had left. Not fear, not yet, only uncertainty. The room no longer behaved as rooms ordinarily behave. Later, she returned. Something had changed. The chair appeared moved. A garment lay upon the floor. Several objects no longer occupied their previous places. The changes themselves were insignificant. Yet Mrs. Hall had begun observing carefully, and careful observation often makes small disturbances impossible to ignore. The stranger himself appeared increasingly agitated. When he descended for meals, his patience seemed exhausted. Questions irritated him. Interruptions angered him. Several times he appeared startled by the presence of other people, as though ordinary company had become difficult to endure. The dark glasses concealed his eyes. The bandages concealed his face. Yet fatigue had begun appearing beneath the disguise. The room above, meanwhile, continued its strange life. At odd hours, footsteps seemed audible, a movement overhead, the sound of furniture, the opening and closing of drawers. Yet the stranger himself rarely appeared. The room seemed occupied even when the occupant remained unseen. Mrs. Hall finally attempted to restore some order. She asked about the scattered belongings, the locked door, the unusual hours. The stranger answered sharply. He demanded privacy. He insisted that the room belonged to him. The conversation ended quickly. Yet afterward, Mrs. Hall found herself watching the staircase. The room had become a question. The guests had begun noticing it. Servants exchanged remarks. Several people listened whenever sounds came from above. No accusation had yet been made. No explanation had yet appeared, yet everyone had begun waiting for something. One evening, after the inn had grown quiet, the disturbances returned. A movement, a chair, a faint sound crossing the floor. The noises were not loud, nor particularly alarming, and yet they carried an unusual quality, the sense that the room itself had become active, that something moved within it beyond ordinary understanding. The winter wind passed outside. The fire burned low. The house settled into silence, and above them all remained the closed room. The stranger still occupied it. The lamps still burned within, and yet the room itself seemed increasingly independent of the man who rented it. The people of Iping had not yet encountered the impossible. Nothing supernatural had appeared. No miracle had revealed itself. And yet the ordinary rules governing houses, rooms, and human presence had begun weakening. The disturbances remained small. A sound, a movement, an object displaced. Yet each incident slowly altered the atmosphere of the inn. The room above had become disturbed, not because anyone understood it, but because no one did. And in the quiet hours of the winter night, the people below began listening to the room above, waiting, watching, and wondering what invisible thing had begun moving there.
There are moments when a house begins teaching its inhabitants how to feel. The people of Iping had not yet seen anything impossible. No door had opened by itself. No apparition had appeared. No miracle had occurred. And yet fear had already entered the inn. Because fear does not require proof, only repetition. A sound heard twice, a chair moved slightly, a room that no longer feels entirely trustworthy. The winter still gathered beyond the windows. The fire still burned. The meals still continued. But the house itself had begun changing, and before long, the people within it would change as well.